Have you ever tried to teach an activity that involved so many components, such as manipulatives, graph paper, pencils, and rulers, but you just didn't have enough hands to hold everything up for your students to see? Or maybe you teach a grade level that doesn't specifically have a use for graphing calculators, but every once in a while they would be helpful for teaching a concept. It would be nice if we could use a tool that encompassed all of these components on one screen, and also didn't have the expense of buying graphing calculators for the class. At the National Library of Virtual Manipulatives website from Utah State University, you can do just that. You can choose your grade level as well as the discipline of math that you are teaching. With the new Common Core objectives upon us, I have found that some of our 5th grade objectives were demonstrated in other grade levels, which is why I'm going to select Algebra for 6th through 8th grade. We are going to specifically talk about block patterns and one of the tools to help students understand this concept better. When you open this activity, you will notice a few things about it. You have 3 types of shapes available to use. You also have a zoom in, a zoom out, and a clone button. So for example, if I clicked on the square, one would appear in the workspace. If I needed another, I could either click on the square again, or I could click on the clone button. Zoom in makes the objects bigger, and zoom out makes the objects smaller as expected. If you have too many objects on your screen, you can left click and drag it to the trash can. Unfortunately, there is no clear screen available if you just wanted to start completely over, so now is not the time to go shape crazy. Now, at the top of the screen you will notice the options of making an activity and activities. I would suggest starting with the activities option to get students used to how this particular program works. I'm going to pick activity 1 to demonstrate block patterns. Then I'll show you the other activity options in a minute. On the right hand side, instructions pop up to let you know what you are trying to find with this activity. It says the X value is the number of triangles and the Y value is the perimeter. It wants us to find the first 5 data points and then come up with a function to represent the data. Okay, so as you can see, the first triangle has a perimeter of 3. So if we go down to our data table, we'll notice that one triangle has 3 units as its perimeter. Go back up to the picture. Now we have 2 triangles. 2 triangles has a perimeter of 4 units. So those 2 bits of information are already graphed on our graph here. They already did those for us. So let's go ahead and finish out the rest of it. If you look up here, 1, 2, 3 triangles has a perimeter of 5. So I'm going to enter 5 there. Now if I wanted to go ahead and graph that information, I would click the graph data button and it would go ahead and appear. So I'm just going to continue with this. 4 triangles has a perimeter of 6 units and 5 triangles has a perimeter of, can you guess? 7 units. That's correct. Now you can stop there if that was enough for you, and let's go ahead and graph that. Or if your students needed a little bit more help, they could draw the next pattern by creating a whole new picture if they wanted to. Now to rotate a triangle or any of the figures, you click on one of their vertices and you hold your left button down and rotate it, and that will take you where you want to go. I need 2 more. Okay, so now they have the next figure and they can go ahead and input that here. So I put 6 as the number of triangles, and here I will put 8 as my perimeter, And I'm going to go ahead and graph that, and I'll have one more point if the students need that for help. Okay, so now that the students have a data table that they have available to them, they also have a graph of the points plotted. Let's go down to where it says f of x for the function. Some students may not be ready for this part, and some students will, and it just depends on how you want to approach that with them as to how they come up with the equation for the graph. So you might just let them play around with it for a minute, and they might think, you know, the amount of perimeter is going up by 1 each time, so let's pretend it's x plus 1. Now I'm going to graph that function, and I'm going to notice that my line does not go through my points, so that tells me immediately that my answer is wrong. So then I'm going to go, okay, well, let's delete that and try a different approach. And I'm going to try, let's say, x plus 2, because the difference between the x and the y values is 2 each time. So I'm going to push graph again, and I'll notice that my line goes through my points this time, so I've come up with the correct function. Now, if you wanted to expand on that and discuss with your students the difference with slope from one point to another, and then you could also discuss the y-intercept as being 0, 2, then that would be completely up to you depending on your grade level. Okay, let me go ahead and point out a few more advanced concepts. When writing your function, you do have the option of using fractions, exponents, square roots, and also absolute value. You also have the ability to change the title of your graph as well as your labels for your x and y axis. So if you wanted to call this the number of triangles from our previous activity, then you could. You can also change this label as well in the title. One other part that I find really needed with this is the ability to change the window for which you see your graph in. So right now the y-axis is going from -2 to 40. I think that might be too large, so I could change that to 20, but I want it to go a little bit lower, so maybe I might do -10, and as you can see it changes my y-axis window. Okay, and it's the same thing for the x-axis. If I wanted to go from -10 to 25, then I could change that as well, and you just get to see more or less of your graph depending on what you want to do with that. There are 3 other pre-made activities. If you click on the activities button at the top, we did activity 1. This one right here is activity 2. It's a little bit more advanced. If you click the next button, you'll go through the other 3, and all of them give you instructions on how they want you to solve that. And you also have the ability to do your own activity. Unfortunately, you can't just click on any buttons here. If you click on this button right here, then you can't do that with the trial version, which is what I'm in. But if you go back and then you click on block patterns again, then it brings up the blank one that you can start off fresh with a brand new idea if you wanted to do that. One other feature that I found really exciting about this is after you have all of your data and pictures and graphs made, you do have the ability to save that as a picture. So you can click on Save Image and just save it as whatever file you want and wherever you want it to be. And then when you pull it back up, then this is the same picture that you will see. Now you won't be able to edit it at all. It'll just be just like a picture, but you do have that option of saving it to use at a later time. So please go and check out this block pattern activity page. It's Manipulatives and Graphing Calculator all in one, without the headache of all the supplies or the expense of a not always needed calculator. Thanks.